and today we got to play
Kutna Hora, the City of Silver.
So this game has a bunch of different mechanisms in it. From card, I don't want to say drafting, but playing.
No, yeah, it's action selection.
Action selection. Definitely got some
area
building.
I guess you call it area control.
That's here, yeah.
Building. Well, it's here too. You're trying to get your buildings in the right areas to get points.
That's more of set collection because you're trying to get this. There's a lot of stuff going on with this game.
And economy.
Yeah, there's economies.
Big part of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this one would definitely be in your medium to heavy range.
Yes, it's definitely on the heavier side of that.
Yeah, so duly noted. But Randy, can you tell us a little bit more as far as who made this sucker?
Well, I'll try. I'm sorry in advance because I'm going to probably butcher these names. Kutna Hora is a 2023 release. Matter of fact, it released at Essen in 2023. It has currently got a Board Game Geek rating of 7.8 and a rank of 2079. So for just coming out, pretty good. It's a 2 to 4 player game. Average length is 60 to 120 minutes. The age range is recommended 13 up. I think that's probably a good range for it. Design, and here's where it gets a little tougher. Andrzej Bistron, Peter Kaslava, Pavel Jarosz, and art is by Stepan Drastok, David Jablanovsky, Jacob Pulitzer, and Milan Vavron. And I'll be happy if I got one of those correct.
Hey, I'm impressed. I couldn't come up with that.
Published by CGE Games. It has an MSRP of $59.95. The coins that we added to it were $29.95 MSRP. We got them discounted from Card House. They're out of stock currently for the game. It's $41.95 is their going price. The coins were $20.99. They are in stock at Card House. Game Nerds has the game, but not the coins. They've got the game for $41.97, so that's your next best price, but you won't get the coins there. Portlandia's got the game $42.20 in stock. Coins they carry, but they're out of stock. So you're going to have to piecemeal this no matter where you go. And that one's they're $25.46 there. So I would get the coins at Card House. If you can wait till it comes back in stock, get both at Card House. If you want it right now, the Game Nerds is your best price to get the game, but you're going to be paying shipping from 2 different locations or else trying to get them.
And I will say we do recommend getting 2 sets of the coins.
Yeah, the coins, while you typically won't burn through them, there is an action that lets you take double income that will push you over significantly, and then you'll be short on them.
Well, 4 players it was tight. I think 4 players generally. I think 3 players. I think we were okay.
Fine on 3 players.
We were close. So if you're mostly going to play this 3-player, 1 set is more than fine. You have the cardboard as extra, like if you occasionally play 4. But we play with a lot of fun.
And everybody are piece snobs here, so nobody wants to play with the cardboard.
Yeah, Randy.
Hey, I bought them. I'm not playing with the cardboard when I bought them.
So just kind of keep that a note, like if you want to get an extra set, may be advisable. So you first played this game at Gen Con last year.
I got to go to an early preview of it at Gen Con.
And during our Gen Con review, you mentioned that this was probably going to be the game of the year for you.
I said it was a contender.
It was a contender. Maybe.
And I still say that, but we'll get to the end and discuss everybody's thoughts on that one.
Yes. Needless to say, I was actually very excited to play this one. Mm-hmm. The first thing is quality of components. Beautifully inlaid boards. They've got... Now, this was a cool thing. Yeah. Now, you told me about these, and this is pretty awesome. So, these are...
They call them rewood.
Yeah, they're not plastic bits. But they don't feel like your generic wood bits either. And if you could tell, there's actually a design on these houses. Like, you could see where the windows are, the framing, and things like that. So that's really awesome. So basically, they make a wood pulp and press it. Anyway, make really cool shapes or print it or somehow whatever they do, what they do. So you end up with this not quite wood feeling, not quite plastic feeling shape, you can basically get the detail of plastic, but the feeling of wood and these beautiful shapes. And that's super cool.
Yeah, because first of all, you're helping the environment have recycling, but secondly, you have more control over than what you would typically with wood for a lower cost because you're pressing it just like you would plastic. I thought that was really amazing. Kudos to them for coming up with this idea. The reason, sadly, I know about this is because, once again, I'm missing a piece in my game and had to go online to order a copy of the missing piece, and that's where I discovered what it said Rewood, and I'm like, what's Rewood? And I investigated. I was like, this is really a neat thing.
So this is one of the first games that we got that have this particular kind of component. So I think that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
I think this is actually a great. I think it's great. So you get the best of both worlds, having the detail of the plastic, but being more responsible, and it has the texture of wood, which I actually kind of like better. So it's kind of a win-win on that front.
And every one of the pieces that's made out of it on the board is got a little pattern in it, whether it needed or not. It's there, and it looks cool.
Oh, absolutely. I think they did the pieces look fantastic. Overall, as far as your miners, like your houses, everything that's got a really great detail. You do have a lot of cardboard. Well, you got some cardboard tiles, a cardboard cathedral. You have these slider things that are used. Did the sleeves come with the cards?
No, I sleeved them separately. You will want to sleeve the cards. The cards are very flimsy. I was disappointed in the cards. CGE historically has not been someone known for their quality of components, so this is a step up for them. I will say the cardboard is nothing spectacular. There's no
linen finish. It's kind of a bit shiny,
and it's all a puzzle. So, like when you're putting the board together, instead of being folded, you got to piece it together. Everything.
Yeah. So, I think they did a huge upgrade with the Rewood, but everything else is pretty on par.
And the coins. If you pay for the coins, the metal coins are really nice.
Yes, the metal coins are really, really nice. But I think $30 is kind of it's expensive.
Yeah.
That's half the game, right? Or more. Same.
No, it's over half.
Over half of the game. Like, that's pretty pricey.
No, I guess if you were playing MSRP, it would be exactly half. If you're paying what you would get it for at Card House, it's slightly over half.
Yeah, so that's still a chunk of change, especially because you need 2 sets. If you're playing with 4 players frequently, those coins better be nice. So, but overall, I do really like the Rewood. I'm probably going to get this to 7.5 because of that.
Yeah. I'm going to probably ding it a little bit on the assembly of the economy sliders. First of all, they have the peeling of the cardboard similar to what we've seen from other publishers. When you fold the cardboard, it wants to peel on you. They work pretty well, except for the sliders, because they're new, they're tight, and you got to pull pretty hard to get them to move. So I think that as over time they're going to wear out and loosen, but they're going to wear out too because the friction on it's going to wear on that cardboard. So I don't like the design of it. I love the concept of it, which we'll get to when we talk about gameplay. I think that I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay. All right. So now let's move on to the actual theme. So the theme is that we're in the city of Silver and we are developing mines, but come with mines, you need production of other items.
Developing the city too.
Right. Well, that's just it, right? Because there has to be a city to support the mines. And I think that's very telling in the gameplay, right? So you go searching in the mines, and as the mines develop, they need more resources and things like that. The board is very, very dark, but again, it's the city of Silver. So
it makes sense.
The mines,
it makes sense with the mines and the fact that it's got the silver and gold tint on the square.
Yeah, so they actually have this. Yeah, it has the reflective. So for that, it's very functional, I really believe. But it's not necessarily eye candy.
Oh no, it is kind of a dismal, dark appearing board. But if
it didn't have that shiny reflective bit.
Yeah, it needed the shininess, and their shininess also carried through over to where basically the inventory of all the buildings that you can build are. So they've matched that up nicely. But it is all pieced together. You got to kind of just lay it next to one another.
Well, that maybe give you some more, a little more flexibility on how to position your
Yeah,
board. The room that you have, overall theme, it makes a lot of sense. You're building different buildings for production as well as public work buildings. So, taxes are raised if you don't get the stuff out.
Gameplay-wise, it fits the gameplay perfectly, I think. Everything makes perfect sense, and that's accentuated by the economy, the economic factor, which we'll get into in the gameplay. But yeah, I think they've done an outstanding job of translating the building of a city and all aspects of it, more so than most games that are city building.
Overall, for theme, I'll probably give this a 7.5 too.
I'm going to go 8 just because I think they did go above and beyond to incorporate all of the aspects of city building. It does incorporate everything as far as just the building aspects. You got to find a plot of land. You got to get the rights to your building. You've got to pay the cost to build it, which can fluctuate during the course of the game. Your rewards from building it are also going to cause the economy to flux because you're going to be producing things, and it's going to drive the economic balance up and down based upon supply and demand. It works really well. And then, of course, mining is going to introduce 2 more products into the economy. The stone, or I guess it is, and the silver or coal or whatever it is. So I think it all fits very well. So I think an 8's fair.
All right, so let's move on to the actual rulebook. Randy, how was that for you?
Well, for being an advanced game, this is a 20-page rulebook. It's not that heavy of a read, so that's the good news. The first part it's got a cover, first of all, that's explains kind of on the bottom half. It says rules of play, but it just kind of goes into kind of what you're trying to accomplish. It's more of a theme. Then you got the components. It's got pictures and what they all are, counts for most everything. Then the assembly of the 2 building or economy things that you are assembling. It does define rewood here. I didn't notice that before, but it does tell you about the rewood, so they're pretty proud of that. And I don't blame them.
Well, I think they should be.
Yeah,
I think it's
I don't blame them. And then they've got an ad for the coins down here, which is kind of unusual to see in the rulebook. The setup is on here. It is kind of a beast to set up and take down, but it is defined real clearly. They got nice example pictures and big, takes up the whole 2 pages. And then your player board. So it's a 3-page setup because there's a lot to set up. 2 players are kind of separate. It's almost like a different game if you play 2-player. It introduces events that everybody has to face during the game. So we haven't played it 2-player yet, so I'm not sure how that works. But it's in the same action factions, but I think this is really designed for 3 to 4 players. And they created a different version of it for 2 players. And then it's got the history of the city in the middle of it. So it's kind of a little bit hodgepodge on how they organized it, I think. Because I would expect this would have been the first thing they would have in the book. Then it goes into how the economy works, which is kind of important to understand that before you get into the gameplay. It talks about a very short brief on what you do, because the game, once you boil it down, the game is really pretty simple as far as action selection as most of it. And it's just knowing how to control the actions, the timing, and paying for them. And then goes through detail all the actions, what they do, then scoring. So it's really not that heavy of a read for all that, as complex as this game can get. So, and it's got a history of the churches in the area too. So because building the cathedral.
Yeah, because I keep building one of the cathedrals, and so I need to actually read up on the cathedral I keep building.
Yeah, and then on the back there's a real handy guide for telling you what all the bonuses you get when you build the cathedral are. There are cheat sheets, I should say, they're 2-sided, and it does go through most of the information you need from iconography. That's really what it's for, and it does give you kind of an idea of what kind of icons you're going to find on the types of buildings, which is helpful. But we really didn't run into any questions on the iconography too much, I don't think.
No, I think it was fine, and as well as the actions are mostly defined right here. So that was very helpful overall.
Given the fact of how complex of a game this is, and the fact that the rulebook is as simple to read as it is, just a little organization issue, I think I'm going to give it an 8.5.
All right. So let's talk about the actual gameplay. All right, so everyone has the same deck of cards, okay? Each round, well, there's kind of 3 turns in a round, and when you do that, you're going to play 2 cards for the first 2 rounds and only 1 card on that 3rd round, which total of your 6 cards, only 5 will be played, so kind of notate that as well. So you're going to end up picking 2 of those cards. Now, when you pick a card, you have an option of 2 different actions on that card. Now, you have to be aware, because some actions, like the Saint Barber action, there's only 1 out of the whole entire deck, the only side that does. So you got to be aware of that, as well as there is, however, a Joker, which allows any and all ability, but you lose a reputation unless you're so high on the reputation track that it doesn't really matter, because people love you that much.
Nobody ever loved me that much in the game.
Yeah, you did something wrong.
Did a lot of things wrong.
Okay, so then anyway, so you pick the 2 things, and then you do those actions. Now, some of the actions include building your mines. You're going to pick a tile, and you're going to place it or pick multiple tiles, depending on how far down you are. You can gain rights to a building. So that means you're going to go over here, pay the cost to actually get the rights to be able to actually build that building. Then you can do your plot action, which allows you to basically reserve a location for you to be able to build. You have to have a plot to build, okay? So you have to have the rights. You have to have a plot down on the board before you can actually trigger the build action, okay? So then you're going to take the building that you have over here, because you've gotten it in the rights, and then you're going to place it down, take the all the iconography and do what it tells you to do, flip it over, and then you're going to put a house on it if it's not a public building. So if it's a private building, you can place one of the house depending on what you build. However, you cannot build all the buildings, because you are only allowed to build. For example, everyone's allowed to build any of the public buildings. However, for example, my character can only build meat, silver, and wood, right? Where other characters have different things. Yeah. So in a 4-player, there was 2 of each thing. So me and one other person can build one thing. So that helped not like saturating the market so much. However, if you're like the only person that has food and you don't build the food,
then the natives get restless and they will take it upon themselves to build it. And when they do, it's going to drive up the cost.
All right, so that's building a building. Then income. So based on the different buildings that you have placed, you'll earn a production. And then that production is worth a certain amount, which is based on these economy tiles or autonomy slides. And that will give you the income that you have. You take your whole board. So that's the actions. So my keynote, though, is, and this is what I didn't understand. When I got my hand, I did my whole entire round. I knew what 5 cards I was going to play before it was my turn. But everyone else was like taking forever to choose.
Particularly your brother. He was... I was not near as bad as your brother was.
Because there is a little bit of sequencing to it. So my thing is I almost thought it was a card yes, it was action selection, but also a sequencing thing. And so I knew I didn't have to second guess. I'm like, okay, these are the 5 cards I'm going to play. This is the way I'm going to play it.
Sometimes you can't really plan ahead because you're planning on building, and then the price of the wood goes up and you don't have the money for it now.
Wait, you were that tight on money?
Yes, the whole game until I did the double income phase, and then I was fine for the rest of the game.
I think you were playing it wrong.
So, yeah, I don't think you can plan 100% ahead. And,
I think you can, if you do it right.
But yeah, I mean, it was mostly the building stuff that really altered the course. Or taking income, that's another factor, because if, the prices changed on you and you were planning on taking income, and now it's no longer beneficial to take income because where you were going to make 20-something coin, now you're making 8. It's...
I was in markets that no one wanted to be in, so I didn't have that problem.
So yeah,
I was fine.
I think there's definite, timing things that you have to plan for, and you can't you can't just always plan ahead because of that.
I want to point out that I won both games.
You have won both games.
So maybe my way probably worked better than your way.
And I've come in last every game so far.
So take that into consideration.
But I was winning at Gen Con, so. So yeah, I think there's a lot of dynamics. So one we didn't talk about was the cathedral build, because when you take the cathedral action, you have to accumulate this purple token that you get from building specific buildings.
Or by, building your middle row, or by building public buildings.
And those will drive up your reputation as you take the action and give you a perk typically. But there's some that are better than others, and particularly, for what you're trying to accomplish. So you want to time those cathedral builds.
Yeah, exactly. Because there was one time that I would have gotten 2 victory points for doing it, and I'm thinking, not worth it. I'll just wait.
And and also some of them will lower your reputation, and then
but they'll give you a benefit, right? So, but some of those benefits are really fantastic, but you want to trigger it at the right time,
right?
And so you may end up missing it because someone else triggered it, or they pillaged a building because it didn't quite work out.
And some of the other buildings the townspeople will build part of the cathedral for you, but if they do, that's one of the things that raises the taxes. So
you just should accept that taxes will exist. Just make sure they're not exorbitant, and don't forget that you have to pay the taxes.
Yes, don't run to the end of your round when taxes are due, because they're due at the end of every
Well,
round.
one time I thought it was a brilliant idea. I'm like, I don't need an income this round, because I really didn't. But then I forgot I had to pay taxes. I was short one money. Had I realized that, I would have played.
And it doesn't matter how short you are. If you don't have the money to pay, you lose reputation.
It makes me really sad. It made me lose my 1 plot money. All right. So, and based on reputation, there are benefits to getting more reputation.
Yeah.
Plots cost less, and then at some point the Joker doesn't require reputation, like I mentioned before. Now let's talk about the economy.
Yeah, this is the coolest part of the game.
So, there are a couple of factors. So as you make production, you will get the icon to tell you to shift these forward or back, okay? And based on that is how much it's available.
Well, it's always forward. It never goes back.
Oh, yeah, but forward. But that will drop the price because there's more of that item out and about. So that's true economy. However, if they don't get serviced at all, if you don't build any type of production, the people's get mad because they want the thing. So they'll do that and create higher taxes for you that you'll end up paying every round.
Well, they raise the prices. The only ones that raise taxes are when you don't build a cathedral.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'll build it. Now some of the buildings have taxes on them, so there's that.
And then the other piece of it as well is that you'll end up sliding cards. So you'll have other actions that will make you remove cards, and that will alter. So at the beginning of the game, you don't need as much coal, right? Because it's the beginning of a new city. Same thing with wood, food, and all this mess. But as the game continues, the demand becomes more because the city is obviously growing. So that was great. I really like that. That was fantastic as far as economic goes. Plus, I know you didn't like the putting them together, but the way they put it, it is so easy to slide and put under. That, whatever made that happen, that worked out fantastic. So overall score, there's a lot going on. There is definitely a lot of mechanisms. There's a lot of strategy involved. I did not love this as much as you. Not to say that it was not a good game. I do think it was a good game. Definitely a 7.5 to an 8. There's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of things going on. But I don't think I loved it as much as you. And I think it had to do with more of that fun factor. Because for me, where I planned my 5 cards at the beginning of the round, I was just waiting. And so I think for me, that's where a little bit of the fun was a little lower for me. But overall, it was still a great game. What about you?
Well, obviously, I like it better than you do. The puzzle of it is very interesting, and I've still played 3 games almost completely. The first game at Gen Con, we didn't have time to finish, and then we played it 2 here, and I still haven't figured out the puzzle, the right combination. I've come in last every time, except for at Gen Con. When we stopped, I was winning. It's hard to say what that the right solution is, and if it's going to be the right one every time. And there is flexibility in it too, because there's starting cards that will redistribute how the boulders in the mine are that you can't build through, and there's cards that will redistribute the combinations of these tiles for which buildings you can have. And there's a sequence to them, by the way, when you play them. So they associate with the rows of buildings that give you the perks differently depending on the combination and the order they're in. So there's a lot of flexibility on the setup. So getting different combinations is going to make this feel different, but not significantly different. And then of course the 2-player game, I think, is going to feel considerably different given the fact that it's got actions or events that affect everybody during the course of the game.
We didn't get to play any of that, so I don't really want to.
No, I just, that would be speculative at this point. But the actual gameplay for the 3 to 4 player game of it, I think is outstanding how well it's designed. And yes, I can understand given the fact that you're playing ahead all the time, how you might not enjoy it as much, particularly when you have to wait for Caleb in particular, but me too, and Adam to some extent, and Alan when we were playing with them.
Yeah, because everyone was taking their turn, but I feel like that's not how you're going to win this game. I think you have to understand, because this is a timing mechanism, you have to know what you need. Now, the thing is you were paying you were super close on the pennies, where I never had that issue because I planned accordingly. Now, one thing I will say, your first building's important, because I stagnated in the second game, which is why I didn't run up so much, because the wood does not give you very much income. So, for me, I will never build the wood first again. I will build probably the food or silver first, and then the second building I would build is the wood to lower the wood cost. But I did like the fact the second time around I did have buildings up front, so when the wood was cheap, I was able to place them down quick. So,
and if you build too much of things, one of the things we didn't mention is it will get to a point where it'll say you can't build any more of those buildings. So, because
there's not the production. There's not a need for it.
So they'll just flat out say you can't build that type of building anymore until the economy can absorb what you built. So I think because of the economy aspect of this game, how well it's managed, but with just to me, I'm in awe of how they designed that. I don't know if I could have come up with something like that. That is amazing. No,
I think they did a really good job on that.
So given that, I'm giving this a 9. I think it's an outstanding game. I think it might, I could see where it might become samey after a while, but there's so much to this puzzle going on. I don't think I'll get bored with it for a long time.
Well, we don't play it frequently enough where I don't think that will be an issue. And for me, I think for me, it was the waiting time. And that's because I was planning for the round where you guys were planning for the turn. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast tonight. Hopefully you'll come hang out with us again. We'll catch you guys later.
Bye. Bye.